Okay, so the US Open is starting soon, starting on Monday. And the US Open's typically the tournament with the most variety, at least of the Grand Slams, in winners, especially on the men's side, right? There hasn't been a new winner in, 15 years now? Back when Roger Federer defended his title in, 2008, 2009, something like that. And I'm going to try to do my best to predict the US Open and its bracket, starting off on the men's side, of course. All right, so the first match is Jannik Sinner versus Mackenzie McDonald. I don't see Sinner really having a problem with McDonald. It could be an interesting match, especially with the recent news of doping, but again, I don't really see Sinner have a problem with that. Spizzirri versus Mickelson next. Spizzirri, I think he's the number one college player, right? At least for the last 2 years, something along those lines. If not, he's been an incredible college tennis player. I'm not sure 2024 US Open is his time, but maybe sometime in the future he'll have more success. I think I'm going to go Mickelson here. Bellucci, Wawrinka. This should be an interesting one. Bellucci has the qualifying. He went through qualifying. He's probably got more momentum right now than Stan. Despite that, I think Stan's experience and being a former champion probably gives him more value in my eyes, but I could very easily see Bellucci winning. I think I'm going to go Stan, though. Chris O'Connell and Jarry. Jarry hasn't won since Rome, so that should be interesting to see if he can get back on track. I am a fan of his game. He's got a very powerful game, very strong serving. I'd love to see him win again, and I think he does. I think he will win at least one match here at the US Open. Okay, Fils and Lerner Tien. Fils, I think, is going to have very little problems. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure it's Tien's time quite yet. Maybe sometime in the future. Munar and Diallo. This is kind of just whatever you prefer, honestly. I think I don't I don't really know who I would have winning this. It's kind of one of those matches where it's like, okay, whatever. Either player could win. I'm going to go Munar, though. Purcell, Vukic. Probably Vukic for me. Sonego, Tommy Paul. Now that is a tough first match for Tommy Paul. Sonego's coming off a Winston-Salem win, right? He just won Winston-Salem, beating Mickelson. However, I think Tommy can get through it. He's been struggling since the Olympics, but still, I think he'll have no problem. Maybe lose a set. To be fair, it could go 5, but I think Tommy will get through. Tsitsipas, Kokkinakis. Tsitsipas hasn't really ever been very good at the US Open. I think round 3 is his furthest that he's ever been. But I don't see him losing to Kokkinakis. Borges, Coria. I'll take Borges. School Kate and Taro Daniel. That's going to be Taro Daniel for me. Mensik and FAA. Now this one's tough. Jakub Mensik had his breakthrough run at the US Open last year. right? That's where he made a name for himself. As a 17-year-old, he made it to round 3. And he's started to continue to make a name for himself. He's had a couple good runs throughout this year. I think over in, was it Dubai, he had a good run. So it's a very tough match for Felix, and I'm not so sure I believe in Felix here at the US Open this year. I think I'm going to go with Mensik. Caboli Duckworth probably should be a Caboli win in straights, maybe 4. Zizou versus Kotov. This is an interesting one. It's kind of a toss-up. Probably a 4-setter. Not exactly sure who I have. Zizou's been playing pretty well at the majors this year, but I think I'm going to go for Kotov. Marozsan Medvedovic. I kind of have an overwhelming faith with Marozsan. He's had some difficult results this year, but I think he's good enough to beat Medvedovic. Lajovic, Medvedev. I don't see Medvedev losing round 1. Alcaraz Lee 2, again, don't see Alcaraz losing round 1. Chapo and Van de Zandschulp next. Winner plays Alcaraz. Van de Zandschulp just kind of hasn't shown anything since that, 2021 US Open run to the quarters. I think Chapo can get this one off, pull this one off. Maybe 4 or 5, probably 4. Diaz Acosta, Gaston. I mean, that's kind of just another one of your preferential ones, whichever one you prefer. Whichever one sounds more right to you at the time. I think I'll go with Gaston. Zhizhen Zhang or Jack Draper. Now this is probably the first round match, at least so far, that I'm the most interested in. Draper struggled in majors. I don't know if his body's ready to go for 5. Consistently. Best of 5 has not treated him very well. And I don't know if he's exactly mentally over that Felix match point controversial point. He got called out for that by multiple people, right? And Triple Z is kind of dangerous. I think I'm going to go for an upset here. So, Zhizhen Zhang to round 2. Tabio Goffin. This is not the Goffin of old anymore. I'm going to go with Tabio. Coric, Mannarino. Mannarino's been horrible this year. And to be fair, it's not the Coric of old either, but I still have a little more faith in Coric right now. Fanini and Mahoch, another player who was much better many, many years ago. Very old section of the draw right here, right? Goffin, Mannarino, and Fanini. I'm going to go Mahoch, though. Mute and Korda next. And what a summer it's been for Sebastian Korda, by the way. He deserves his flowers and all the praise in the world. Just an incredible summer for him. Winning Washington, he did fairly well at the 2 American Masters, or American hardcourt swing Masters in Canada and Cincy. Made a semi at one of them. I can't remember which one it was at the time. Mute should kind of... I'd expect him to try to make that kind of a circus of a match. Maybe squeaks out a set, but I don't see Korda losing to Butte. de Minaur, Giron, kind of a tough one for Alex. I don't know how healthy he is. And Giron's been playing fairly well this year. I think I'm still going to go for de Minaur, but don't be surprised if Giron gets the upset there. Otto Virtanen and Quentin Hallis. There's not much insight I could provide for that one, honestly. Kind of a toss-up. Let's go with Virtanen. Navoni, Altmaier. Does Navoni really have much experience on hardcourt at the tour level? Not really. I think I'll go Altmaier. Dan Evans and Khachanov. Maybe Evans squeaks out a set. Two very, very different stylistic players, which should be a kind of an interesting match to watch. I don't see Khachanov losing, though. Arnaldi will win, and then Safuilin probably wins that in 3, maybe 4. We'll see, though. We'll see what Forbes can do. Lestienne and Jordan Thompson. I kind of view Jordan Thompson as a seed without him actually being a seed. I think of him kind of in like the top 30 range. He's that kind of quality of a player who can cause some problems for some seeds down the line, I think. Kind of an interesting matchup with him and Hurkacz round 2 potentially. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the two of them meet in round 2. So Thompson beats Lestienne, Hurkacz beats Skatov. Ruud gets a quali round 1. I think he'll get past round 1. Monfils and Schwartzman. What a match this would have been a couple of years ago. Schwartzman's kind of taken a fall from grace. He got through qualies, which, kudos to him. This might be the last slam of Diego Schwartzman's career, which would be sad and unfortunate, of course. But Gael Monfils has been on quite a run this summer. He just won a UTS. He beat Alcaraz. I don't see him losing to Schwartzman, especially this current state of Diego Schwartzman. Carbeas, Baena for me there. Jerry Shang and Bublik is interesting, though. You never know what to expect from Sasha Bublik. However, me personally, I'm not expecting a whole lot from him there in New York this year. And Jerry Shang is a very good player. Has some polishing to do, but I think he's good enough to beat Bublik and maybe make a run here. It's a very open section of the draw for him. I think a round 3, maybe even round 4 is very possible for him here this year. Humbert, Monteiro. Monteiro had a pretty good clay season. We're not on clay anymore, though. I'll go Ugo. Or Hugo Humbert. Stricker, Komasana. Right? We talked about Minsick earlier. One of the youngsters making a big run last year at the U.S. Open. Stricker was right there with him. Stricker even made round 4, I think, compared to Minsick's round 3. He's been out for quite a bit this year. I think getting back, at Wimbledon? I still think he'll beat Komasana, but it should be an interesting match as well. Ramos Vinolas and Berrettini. I don't see Berrettini really having a problem with that. He's someone who could make a deep run. An unseeded player could definitely make a big run. Has had a lot of success at slams before, right? Runner-up to Djokovic at Wimbledon a couple years ago. He's made the semifinals here at the U.S. Open a couple of times, I think. So watch out for Berrettini, right? Someone who could definitely make a run. Fritz should probably win that very easily. I'd imagine straight sets. Probably without losing 5 games. Holger Rune, Brandon Nakashima is definitely one I want to watch. This is a match that could go 5. And one that I think could be a pretty big upset. Now, Rune just made the semis in Cincy. However, Nakashima's also had a really great summer. He made the round of 16, both in Canada and in Cincy. He's just been playing very well. And I think Rune might not be mentally strong enough to face an American crowd against an American at this very moment. Now, he could completely make a fool of, I could completely be making a fool of myself right now. And he could win straight sets very easily. But I think I'm going to give the edge to Nakashima with the American crowd behind him. I think this is a 5-setter if Nakashima wins. And I think I'm going to go for a Nakashima win here against Holger Rune. Arthur Cazot, Pablo Carreño Busta. Carreño Busta's had a pretty good comeback. And I think I'm going to go with him over Cazot. Cazot had a good Aussie Open, so that's something to keep in mind. But I think I'm going to go with Carreño Busta over Cazot. Nishioka Kecmanovic. I was pretty impressed with Kecmanovic at Wimbledon against Sinner with his game. I think he's a very good player, someone who has a very bright future ahead of him, and I think he gets past Nishioka for sure. Interesting to see what he can do in New York this year, for sure. Now, Opelka and Musetti. This is a match that I think is not getting nearly enough credit for what it's going to be. Opelka, big server. Right, he's coming back from injury, and he's had a pretty good comeback from injury, I'd say. Especially after being out for 2 years, something like that. Musetti's been the man of the summer. Right, great runs at French Open, Wimbledon, Olympics, right? Olympic bronze medalist, semis at Wimbledon. I think Opelka edges him out, though. I'm kind of getting those kinds of vibes, which I know is not great analysis of tennis, of course, but sometimes vibes speak to you. I think I'm going to go Opelka. Cerundolo, Offner. Cerundolo is somebody who could be upset, especially if you're talking seeds. Kind of surprised that he's still a seed at this point. He hasn't had a fantastic year, of course. I think I'm going to stick with him, but that should probably be a 4-setter or a 5-setter against Offner. Pesci, Pericard, Echeverry. That's a tough one. Pesci, Pericard, of course, had that great run at Wimbledon, making 4th round. Big server. Definitely great on grass, right? Big serves are always, a must on grass if you want to do well. Or at least, if you're not the top cream of the crop, having a great serve will help you go further in grass. And it'll help on hard, but not as much as on grass. Echeverry is still very, very good. And, he's been seeded at the last couple of slams. I guess he hasn't been doing as great as of recently, but he's made deep runs in slams before. Of course, that was at Roland Garros on the clay. I still think I'm going to go Echeverry, though. I'm going to go Mueller over Walton. Not exactly sure what to make of that match. Zverev should have no problem with Martyrer. Rublev, Sejbo-Vilch. Now, remember, they played in Australia at the Australian Open. It went to 5. Sejbo-Vilch is not an easy opponent. He beat Medvedev, what was it, last year at the French Open? He's not someone you want to see play, on the other side of the net at round 1 of a slam. I think I'm going to go Rublev. I don't think it'll go 5. But that should be an interesting match. Eubanks Rinderknech. Eubanks this season has kind of been disappointing. I was expecting a little more out of him. I think he can get past Rinderknech, but that should be an interesting one. I'll go Grenier over Kruger. Lehechka-Fucsovics is a pretty interesting match. Fucsovics has been known to play very, very well against seeds at slams. I think he took out Korda at the U.S. Open last year. When Korda was, he had quite a bit of hype around him last year. I remember going into Wimbledon last year, he was considered one of the favorites, especially with it being on grass. But anyway, Lehechka's coming back from injury. Remember, he didn't play between Madrid and Cincinnati, I think. I don't think he played Canada, so I think it was between Madrid and Cincy. He beat Medvedev in Cincinnati, though. I think Lehechka's fine, and I think he'll get past Fucsovics. Baez Darderi could be one to watch. I think Baez gets the job done. Maybe in 4. Nagal and Griekspoor. Griekspoor's probably very, very happy he's not drawing center right now. It's like he drew center for 5 straight tournaments. It's something crazy. He kept getting on center side of the draw, second, third round, something insane for a very long time. I think Griekspoor gets past Nagal. Fokina should get past Hijikata. And Dimitrov should win. His injury status could be something to watch out for, though. But yeah, I'm going to pick Grigor to win. Shelton should really have no trouble with Thiem. Very sad end for Dominic Thiem's career, honestly. Things were looking so bright for so long for Domi. He got that win at the 2020 U.S. Open. And things have kind of been going downhill for him since then. We'll see, I guess, but Shelton, I'd imagine, will win, and I think it'll probably be straight sets. Nardi, Bautista Agut. It's going to be Luca Nardi for me, maybe. No, I'm going to go Bautista Agut, best of 5. Shevchenko or Koepfer. Shevchenko had a really good hardcourt swing earlier in the year. Performed well at Montpellier, I think. And even, I think he beat Runa a couple of times at the beginning of the year on hard. I think I prefer him over Koepfer. But that is another interesting, match between not two people that probably won't go very far. But if you're looking for round one excitement, that could be a good match for it. Shevchenko, Koepfer. I think I'll go Shevchenko. Kovacevic, Tiafoe. Tiafoe made the final of Cincy. He loves the U.S. Open. I don't see Tiafoe losing. Now we got the Canada champion. Alexei Popyrin plays Kwon. Popyrin was one of those seeds going in where I was thinking, okay, it's going to depend heavily on his draw. But that might be someone who's on upset alert. His draw looks pretty well, or looks pretty good, at least first 2 rounds, right? I don't see him having a problem with Kwon. And the next round against Pedro Martinez or a qualifier. Let's go for the quali. Let's have some fun. Go for the quali. Jarre and Struff is an interesting one. Was it Jarre who pushed Djokovic to 5 last year? Am I remembering that correctly? At the U.S. Open, of course. I think I'm going to go Struff, but another very interesting match. I don't see either of them beating Djokovic in the next round, though. Which I guess it's spoiler alert for my round 2 Djokovic match prediction. All right, back up to the top. Round 2. Sinner Mickelson. I don't see Mickelson giving Jannik much problem. Maybe a set. But Sinner should get past him. Jarry, Wawrinka. Again, Jarry hasn't won since Rome. Does he win 2 times in a row at the U.S. Open? Maybe a bit pushing it. But, I think he should be better off. I think he's got a favorable draw. One that he can win, right? O'Connell first round shouldn't be too much trouble. And then Stan, round 2 of a slam at this point of his career. Kind of pushing it. Jarry should win. But honestly, I think I'm going to go Stan. I don't know how much faith I have in Jarry. And let's go Stan. Stan to beat Jarry. Fils, I think, should get past Munar. Tommy should get past Vukic. I do think Tsitsipas will get past Borges and tie his career best at the U.S. Open. Round 3, I'm pretty sure he's right. That would be his best. Tsitsi. Mensik, Daniel. I don't think Daniel's going to beat Mensik. Kaboli, Karpov is kind of interesting. Kaboli's been playing very well recently. Do I think Karpov could give him some trouble? Sure. But it's probably 3 or 4 for Kaboli. I don't see Vershin really bothering Medvedev, honestly. He just hasn't been playing as well recently. And to be fair, Medvedev hasn't been playing his best recently. His serve's kind of been worrisome. I think he gets past Marozsan, though. I don't see Shabo really causing much problem for Alcaraz. And then Zhizhen Zhang would probably be Gaston if that were to happen. Again, that might not happen. Draper may perform better than I expect him to. But if this were to happen, I would pick Triple Z to beat Gaston. Tabio, Borna Coric. I am kind of a Tabio fan, to be fair. I like his game. And I think I typically predict him to go further than he does and than I should. But I don't think Coric troubles him here. Now, Mahach court is very interesting. Mahach has not been playing incredibly well. However, Korda doesn't play extremely great at slams. Mahach could give him some trouble. That's one I would watch for sure. I think I'll pick Korda to beat Mahach, but again, very interesting. Demon, I think, will beat Otto Virtanen. Again, I'm not exactly sure how his injury's gonna treat him at the U.S. Open. Again, something to keep an eye on, keep in the back of your mind. I think I'm gonna pick him to beat Virtanen. Well, yeah, I'm gonna pick him to beat Virtanen. I feel pretty confident about him making round 3, but he could be upset round 1 or round 2. I could definitely see it. Altmaier, Khachanov, I'll go Khachanov, and I'll beat Arnaldi will beat Safuulin. Thompson, Hurkacz is interesting. Hubie doesn't really lose to people that he should beat. He should beat Thompson. Thompson is somebody he should beat, and he's been very good this year against people ranked lower than him. He hasn't really had a bad loss on the year. Maybe you can say the Feast loss was bad. Again, he got injured. The Feast loss at Wimbledon, by the way. He lost to Tiafoe and Cincy, I think. Tiafoe made the final. And pretty sure he lost to Popyrin in Canada. Again, Popyrin won Canada. So, he's been losing to worse and worse opponents recently. Might come back to that later, but I think I've got Hurkacz. Ruud Monfils is interesting. Again, Monfils has been playing extremely well recently. He beat Alcaraz. He won that UTS. Do I think he beats Casper Ruud at the U.S. Open? That I'm not sure he does. Now, I love to pick upset picks. And I do love me some Gael Monfils. Right? Everybody does. Everybody wants to see him make a big run. He's such a fun player to watch. Casper Ruud is a former finalist. I think he'll buckle in for the U.S. Open. If this is Wimbledon, I'd probably pick Monfils just because it's grass. But it's not Wimbledon. It's the U.S. Open. I'll go Casper. Jerry, I think, has no problem with Carballés. Baena, Humbert should get past Stricker. If Stricker was playing the whole year, maybe we have a better idea of how good he is going into this. Maybe he's going in better, and that could be an upset pick. But I've got to go with the person who's proven himself, who's earned this seed, right? I don't think Stricker beats Humbert. Fritz Berrettini is very interesting, and that's a match where a lot of people are picking upsets. Picking Berrettini to win, obviously, with that being the upset. A very popular dark horse or unseeded player who can make a long run. I think Taylor's going to lock in for the U.S. Open. He played so well at the U.S. Open last year. And I think he's hungry to keep doing that, go back to doing that. I'm going to pick Taylor. Nakashima, Carino Busta. Very interesting one. Nakashima's form, again, is pretty good, right? Round of 16 at both both masters in Canada and Cincy. I think I'll pick Nakashima to keep going. I think that's the end of the road for Opelka. I don't know if he's fit enough to go round 3 in a slam, to win multiple best of 5 matches in a row. So Kecmanovic it is. Cerundolo, Echeverry. I don't really have a ton of faith in Cerundolo anymore. I think Echeverry will win. Zverev should beat Mueller. Rublev Eubanks could be interesting. I think Rublev wins though. Lehechka beats Grenier. Greek Sport over Baez. Baez is kind of seated a little high, if you ask me. Like, I know it's the ATP rankings, of course. His ranking is higher than what at least I would think of him at. Yeah, and I think Greek Sport is going to be biting at the opportunity he has. It's a pretty good draw for him. Fokina, Dimitrov, this is one to watch. Fokina kind of bottles matches and slams. He kind of does. There's no way getting around that. Right? Remember what he did at Wimbledon last year? Underarm serve in a crucial point in the tiebreak. The super tiebreak against Runa, I think. Lost that. It was a match he should have won. Dimitrov's got injury problems. I think I'm going to go Grigor. It could be one to watch, though. Shelton should be fine against Batista Agut. Tiafoe Shevchenko. Again, Shevchenko had a good start to the year on hard. I think I'm going to go Tiafoe, though. Recency bias, maybe. American bias, maybe. Tiafoe's just so good at the U.S. Open. Popyrin should beat the quality, and Djokovic beats Struve, like I said earlier. Round 3. Sinner will beat Stan. That's the end for Stan. Feast Tommy is interesting. Tommy's form has not been great. If I'm not going off of any form, and I'm just picking who I think would win based on who's the better player, I'm picking Tommy Paul. Arthur Feast, though, I like his potential. I like the way he plays. It would be a very interesting match to see. Right, he lost to Nakashima in Cincy. He didn't play well in Canada. So I think I'm going to go Tommy just because neither of them are playing very great right now, and I think Tommy is just the better player. Tsitsipas Mensik. Remember, Mensik made round 3 last year at the U.S. Open. I think he has improved as a player since then. And Tsitsipas has struggled in the past at the U.S. Open. Very much so. This would tie his furthest run at the U.S. Open. I'm going to go Mensik, actually, over Tsitsipas. Kaboli Medvedev. I don't see Kaboli beating Medvedev. Even if Medvedev is having more problems than usual. He's too good of a player, especially at the U.S. Open, to go out pre-quarters, honestly. Especially pre-round 4. Alcaraz, Xi Jinping, I think this is the end for Triple Z. He's a great player. I don't see him beating Carlos. Maybe getting a set off of him. But probably not beating Carlos. Tibio Korda's been playing great recently, and I think that's very, very important. So yeah, I'm gonna go Korda to beat Tibio. Demon, Hachinov, two players that I honestly don't have a ton of faith in making it to round 4. So of course one of them is going to make it to round 4 in this, and probably but neither of them will make it to this matchup right here. Demon, Hachinov. Demon's the better player, especially right now. But I think injury might catch up to him, and I think I'll go Hachinov. Arnaldi Hurkacz. Again, with injury catching up to somebody. Hurkacz has been losing to players of Arnaldi's quality, right? He lost to Tiafoe, to Popyrin. Both of them are around the same ranking as Arnaldi currently. Hurkacz is also dealing with injury problems. Arnaldi also made a run at the U.S. Open last year. It's an interesting one, and I think I'll go Hubie. But again, should be an interesting one. I might go Arnaldi, actually. Yeah, let's go with Arnaldi. No, Hubie. Casper or Jerry Shang. I don't see Casper losing. Good run from Jerry Shang. I don't see him as a round of 16 in a slam guy yet. Do I think he gets there? Definitely. I think he's very good talent. Someone who you got to look out for in the future. But for now, Casper's going to beat him. Hugo Humbert, Taylor Fritz. Again, Taylor he played so well at the U.S. Open last year before playing Novak. I think he'll be fine against Humbert. Nakashima Kecmanovic. Wow, that would be an interesting round 3. Again, Nakashima on recent form has been pretty good. But I think at this point he's played quite a few sets. Maybe Kecmanovic goes through a little easier. He's a little more rested. I think I'm going to go Nakashima, though. He's just been playing so well recently. A win over Runa might, boost his confidence that much more. So yeah, Nakashima to round 4, strangely enough. Zverev over Etcheverry. Yeah, I don't see Etcheverry beating Zverev. Lehechka Rublev. Rublev played very well at both Cincy and in Canada. He lost to Sinner at both of them. I like Lehechka's game. And I don't know if Rublev... I think it'll frustrate Rublev. Because this is a match he should win. And this is a match that Lehechka very easily could win and cause some problem for Rublev. I think I'm going to go Lehechka over Rublev. Could be a very interesting match. Could be completely wrong and Rublev wins in straights. Very, very possible. But for some reason, I think Lehechka beats Rublev. Griekspoor Dimitrov. I like Griekspoor. And again, injury concerns are something to take into serious consideration. And I'm going to take into consideration here. I think Greek Sport wins. Shelton Tiafoe, rematch of a quarterfinal last year, where Shelton beat Tiafoe. And I think Tiafoe wants revenge. He loves the US Open. He's made that very, very clear. And he's played extremely well there. Semi-final in 22, quarterfinal in 23. I think we get a Tiafoe win over Shelton. Popper and Djokovic for the third slam this year. Wow. Aussie, Wimbledon, and now the US Open. I don't see the result being any different than it has in the past. But with the newfound confidence from the Canada win, Popper could give Djokovic some problems. I do think Djokovic does win, though. Round 4. Again, I'm not super confident Tommy even gets to round 4. Could he cause some problems for Jannik? Maybe. He's caused a ton of problems for Alcaraz in recent memory. But Jannik and Carlos are very different players. I think Jannik gets past Tommy. Mensik, Medvedev. I don't really see Mensik beating Medvedev. Maybe a set. It could honestly go 5 with the way Medvedev's been playing. And Medvedev drops sets that he really just shouldn't, to players he shouldn't. Right, Terrence Attman comes to mind in the Australian Open not last year, but earlier this year. I think Medvedev wins. He's so good at the US Open. So extremely and crazily good. Really, on all hard courts, he's just very good. I think Medvedev beats Mensik. But in the future, I think Mensik can go further than round 4, right? I think he's a potential slam winner in the future. I don't think now's his time. Alcaraz Korda is one to watch if that were to happen. Korda doesn't seem to be afraid of the top players. He's very good against top players. In best of 5, though, I don't see him beating Carlos Alcaraz. If it's best of 3, maybe you pick that as an upset. And that could be a very, very possible upset if it's best of 3. It's best of 5, though. I think Alcaraz wins. Khachanov, Hurkacz. Hubie, again, I don't want him, going into this, I didn't think I would have Hubie Hurkacz going to the quarterfinals. The way the draw has set up for him, though, I don't see him not making it. With him, injury is much less important than it is for de Minaur, because he can still go out and serve and hit aces. De Minaur's game is much more running, chasing down every ball. I think he gets past de Minaur, and I just think he's too good for Khachanov, honestly. Khachanov has been extremely good at majors before. He's made semifinals here at the US Open, actually. He made semis at the Australian Open. What was it? 22 or 23? One of them. But yeah, I think Hubie makes quarters, I guess, in this case. Casper Ruud, Taylor Fritz. Give me Taylor Fritz. Again, he's been very good. He was very good at the US Open. I think he's hungry to win the US Open, of course. Do I think he does that? Probably not. But he's hungry. He wants to do well at the US Open. So, Taylor Fritz beats Casper Ruud. Again, he was so dominant at the US Open last year that Novak seemed to be the only person that was going to get in his way. And if we're basing it off of last year, I don't see Taylor losing to Casper. And I think it could be a tough one for sure, a tough match for sure. That's probably a 5-setter. At least 4. I don't see it being straight sets. Probably 4 sets, maybe 5. Taylor wins, though. Nakashima Zverev. I think that's the end for Brandon Nakashima. Maybe he gets a set off of Zverev. But yeah, Zverev wins. Lehechka Griekspoor. Lehechka, I think, again, coming off of injury, he's had so long off, and he did beat Medvedev. He beat Medvedev. I'm putting a lot of weight on that, I think, maybe more than I should, but that's impressive nonetheless. And I think it should be considered when you're talking about Lehechka's odds of winning his matches at the U.S. Open. Because of Medvedev's ability on hard court, he's one of, if not the best hard court player in the world. He's one of the best hard court players in the world. I don't know if he's the best anymore, but that's something that holds a lot of weight, to me at least. So I think I'll go Lehechka over Griekspoor. And again, he was playing so good at Madrid before he got injured, he probably would have won. I think he would beat Rublev. So yeah, I think Lehechka's a very good player, has a bright future ahead of him, and I think he's going to make a quarterfinals here. And then Tiafoe Djokovic. Now remember, on his semifinal run at the U.S. Open in 2022, Tiafoe did beat Rafael Nadal. Can he beat another member of the Big Three to make another semifinal run at the U.S. Open? I don't see it against Djokovic. I think Djokovic wins. Quarterfinal time. Sinner, Medvedev. Jannik Sinner. Yeah. Medvedev just hasn't been playing like Daniil Medvedev recently. His serve is not doing great. I think Sinner can definitely exploit the weaknesses in his game. Now, let's be real. Daniil Medvedev's weaknesses are very few and in between. I still think Jannik can do enough to exploit them as best as humanly possible. Alcaraz, Hurkacz. Look, I know what it's going to look like. I was talking all about how the U.S. Open's super unpredictable, and now I'm picking the top seeds to do well, to do the best at the U.S. Open. The top 4 are kind of very far ahead of everybody else. You got top 4, like in a league of their own. Medvedev, like kind of a big gap between Medvedev and the top 4. And then an even bigger gap between Medvedev and the rest of the field. So, I do think Alcaraz beats Hurkacz. Again, I'm not exactly sure Hurkacz gets to the quarters. His draw kind of just opened up for him. Kind of a good draw for him. But yeah, I don't see him beating Alcaraz. Fritz Zverev. Look, I've been talking about Fritz doing extremely well until he ran into Novak at the U.S. Open last year. And I think he's going to run into Novak again. I think he beats Sasha Zverev. It would be one to watch for sure. It would be a very interesting match. Two pretty big guys, 2 tall guys, pretty good servers, right? Like I know Zverev has this kind of connotation around him, you know, that people are like, oh, he's not a super great server. That kind of needs to die off now. He's fixed his tosses on his second serve. That should be a very interesting match. Fritz Zverev. Taylor makes it to his first semi, I guess, in the majors, which he should have made in Wimbledon in 2022. Couldn't beat Nadal, who tore his abdomen. And then he would have played Kyrgios in the semis, could have made a final. Revisionist history, maybe. Still kind of painful, nonetheless. Djokovic Lehečka. I don't think Jiri Lehečka beats Novak Djokovic. Yeah, Novak's gonna win. Semis, Jannik versus Carlos Alcaraz is the match of the tournament. Now, remember 2022 when Carlos won the U.S. Open, the two of them met and played one of the best matches I've seen, honestly. That was a very, very good match, very quality tennis match. They're both much better tennis players now. This should be a very interesting match. Now, both of them have concerns surrounding them. Jannik's got the whole doping scandal, whatever. Think of that as you will. I'm not so sure how much that affects him. Carlos did roll his ankle in practice on Saturday. How much that affects him, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to go Jannik Sinner, though. I think he finally gets over the hump, beats Alcaraz. He's been struggling against Alcaraz recently. Hasn't really beat him as of late. I think he does it, though, here at the U.S. Open. Djokovic, Fritz, I think, unfortunately for Fritz, I think, that the winless streak continues. I don't see him beating Djokovic. All right, Sinner, Novak Djokovic final. 1-2 in the final at the U.S. Open. Really going out on a limb here, aren't I? We haven't had a repeat champion in 15 years. If anybody can do that, it's Novak Djokovic. He's the greatest tennis player of all time. And I think he wins. And I think he's got new motivation now. After winning the Olympic gold, I think he was so focused on the Olympic gold for so long that he kind of lost sight of everything else until the Olympics. And now I think he's going for 25 and beyond. So yeah, I think that's going to wrap everything up. And Novak Djokovic, U.S. Open champion, 2024. Let's see if it happens.